Hi, I'm Sarah Weiler, founder of Contemporary Education. In this video, I'm going to talk about developing students' agency in schools through relationships. This is part of a larger video series where I talk about developing students' agency in schools through 4 key organizational factors: relationships, resources, space, and time. When I talk about agency, I'm not only talking about opening up the opportunity for students to make decisions, but also thinking about the quality of those decisions, how those decisions are based upon conscious awareness, reasoning, and deliberation. When we talk about relationships, I'm focused on the relationships that we have at school that are multiple. There are the student-to-student relationships, the teacher-to-student relationships, the relationships between students and the larger school community of families and other non-faculty staff members, as well as the relationships between students with the larger community beyond the walls of the school. So you can notice that I'm focusing on the students as the main protagonists and agents, and their relationships with the variety of different other actors and agents within the school community. And I'm focused on relationships that are first and foremost cultivated to be healthy relationships centered on the value of everyone's well-being in equal measure, and cultivating the sense of belonging, and that everyone has something to contribute and also something to receive in terms of support for the collective growth of the whole community. So when we think about the relationships at school, I think the best way to think about them is in terms of an ecosystem. And I've talked about this a little bit, contrasting between the metaphor of the school as an ecosystem and the metaphor of the school as like an industrial production model in another video on the 5 C's of contemporary education. But when I'm talking about the school as an ecosystem, if you think about an ecosystem, it's built upon a series of interconnected and interdependent relationships. All the relationships influence and impact one another in a very dynamic way. So keeping that in mind, that breaks this more traditional conception of the relationships at school, principally the relationship between students and teachers. And thinking about that, let's start there. The traditional school model is that the teacher is the authoritarian and the main decision maker within the classroom. So in terms of students' agency is typically more limited within that kind of relationship model. So teachers, they are in this traditional model thought to be the transmitters of school content, curricular content, and students are the receivers, usually in a passive sense, the receivers of that information. And in conjunction, teachers are also the rule establishers and the rule enforcers within the classroom. So that relates both to the conceptual content of how concepts are understood and what rules delimit that understanding in terms of how they're characterized, what their qualities are, what they are and what they're not. But in more common sense terms, the rules of how we interact with one another, so-called rules of behavior, how you're supposed to act, what's allowed, what's not allowed, conduct in schools. So the teachers decide and they enforce that, and students have little voice in that decision making. Enforcement is usually done in a coercive way, using rewards or punishments to try to incentivize and de-incentivize certain types of behavior and actions within schools. That further limits the development of students' agency. So how do we transform that kind of more traditional model relationship that many of us grew up with, and it's what we have as a kind of norm, what we believe is the normal kind of relationship you find in schools between teachers and students. How do we transform that in a way that we can develop students' agency through a different kind of relationship, cultivating as a basis, as a foundation, certain values and the relationships at school, in the school community. And of course, this could also be thought about within the home and within the family. So the values of healthy relationships, and healthy relationships that everyone feels valued, everyone belongs, everyone has a voice in decision making, even though the roles of different members within that community, whether it be parents and the children at home or teachers and students at school, have different roles that they take on, their voices have equal value, and they are there's a kind of democratic spirit that's cultivated in these relationships, and also there's a spirit of trust and caring. So one of the 5 C's of contemporary education is caring, and this is the place where we cultivate the caring in the relationship. So showing that I value what you think, I value what you have to say, I can listen to you, I can have a different perspective and a different point of view, but I'm willing to take the time to understand you and have that relationship built on respect reciprocated. So the teacher and the parents at home are the ones that set the tone for that kind of relationship, so that children can learn that that is the expectation of relationship to be cultivated amongst everybody within a community, whether at home or at school. An important question to take into consideration in these relationships is one person's agenda trumping others' agenda? And that's the idea of this equal power relations, or more democratic power relations, that everybody's voice counts, everybody's idea, opinion, point of view has a place in the decision making. And there's a difference between the teacher or the parent as an authoritarian figure that is there to say, this is how it has to be, and if it's not this way, these are the consequences, and coercing behavior, coercing certain action through rewards and punishments, and the teacher or the parent as an authority figure that is there to guide, that is there to support, that is there to build trust and to build this caring relationship, so that there is this feeling that decision making is something that is just and fair amongst all participants, but is there with a different role of having more experience in life, more knowledge, more conceptual resources to draw upon, and also to question and challenge certain perspectives and points of view, to help students and children to think about not only that they can make the decision, but the quality, again, of their decision making. What's their reasoning process? How can adults, such as teachers and parents, help them develop this reasoning to be able to expand the potential of their agency and decision making, to know that they have many possibilities of making decisions. Those decisions follow from a meaning that underscores or underlies those decisions, and that there's consequences and implications for the decisions that they make. So this does mean that sometimes there will be decisions made that the teacher might not agree with, but if everyone's safety is guaranteed and everybody's well-being is guaranteed, that it's okay. There's trial and error. That's giving it experimenting, seeing if it fails or if it's successful, and how that's measured by what criteria. Now, this relationship also goes beyond the classroom, beyond thinking the teacher and the student relationship, to the community, and how we can draw upon the collective resources available, both material and conceptual resources available within that community through those relationships, so that everyone is, again, valued and belongs and has something to contribute and also something that they can receive to help support them in their growth. And it's a very, again, mutual relationship of giving and taking that's cultivated at all times. Beyond that community, there's the community that lies beyond the walls of the school. So the community, maybe there's local businesses, local universities, that can be sources of conceptual resources and material resources to be shared. And beyond the local community, the global community that we can access through many digital resources that we have available today. And that the learning and the development process, it's a never-ending journey, right? And so we can learn and grow from one another, and cultivating this mutuality and reciprocality in schools based on an ethos of everybody belongs, an ethos of caring, an ethos of valuing everyone's voice, and how we can challenge and question one another in this way of not just opening up the chance for everybody to express their voice and make decisions, but also question and challenge one another in a very constructive and positive way, so that we can even move beyond where we are today to expanding the sense of agency and making the best possible decisions that are informed, intentional, and meaningful. Finally, of course, there's cultivating a very important relationship, which is the student-to-student relationship, making sure that there is a safe space built on trust for students to be able to experiment, for students to be able to feel comfortable to fail and try again, to feel comfortable to express maybe ideas that they're concerned about, ideas that they really don't know what to do with. Let's say they have an idea that could be understood as, sexist, racist, homophobic, but they don't know what to do with that idea. It's something maybe they've heard in their home, that they've heard in their communities, or they've seen in society, and they don't really know what to do with that, how to understand that, why people say those things or do those things. And they need to have a safe space at school to be able to discuss those ideas. And then the teachers and the school community acting as resources to help provide guidance and support. And that guidance and support is looking at an idea, understanding what's the historical basis for that idea, what does it follow from, where does it come from, how the trajectory of the development of that idea. How do people understand that from multiple perspectives nowadays in different places across cultures, and how that acts as a resource for us to make decisions of how we position ourselves and make judgments in the world. So this is my take on it about relationships, how relationships perhaps are the most foundational in terms of developing students' agency in schools and developing children's agency in general, inside or outside of school. And I welcome you to participate in this dialogue at contemporaryeducation.com. Thank you.